Chapter 20. In the afternoon, the three of us are gathered in the hallway ready to go out. Elena is reviewing the do's and don'ts for us. You, pointing an admonishing index finger at the high priest, are to behave normally. That'll be a first. You are also to speak as little as possible. Another first. And you, Rapahaman, no nickname, she means business, are to remain hidden and quiet. Both of you, promise me you'll behave. Yes, we say in unison. Elena looks pleased. She gives the high priest a signal. He picks me up, puts me in the sling, and buttons his coat. She opens the door, and we step outside. Immediately there's a foul smell and roaring noises. She's warned us about this. Pollution, car, and airplane noises. But it's far more unpleasant than I imagined. I'm almost glad to be under the high priest's coat. I hear Elena lock the door. There's no turning back. I put the tube into the buttonhole and look through it. I can see everything, a piece at a time anyway. We turn to the left and begin walking. The sharp cold wind from the Hudson River makes Elena and the high priest walk fast, and the faster they walk, the more I'm bounced about in my precarious seat. We'll turn here at 106th Street and get a cab on West End Avenue, Elena says. I catch a glimpse of the statue I see from my bedroom window, a soldier on his horse. I always imagine he's killing the vizier for me. Be careful, dog shit, warns Elena. Too late, the high priest has stepped in it. Cursing the entire canine population of the city, he scrapes the sole of his shoe on the side of the curb. Hurry up, Elena commands. I see a taxi. Taxi! Taxi! She yells, waving her hand in the air. A yellow automobile stops. Elena gets in and motions to the high priest to get in too. He has to stoop so low he almost crushes me, but he still bangs his head, cursing under his breath. To the mat, please, Elena says to the driver. While massaging his head, the high priest complains he has no room for his legs. Indeed, his knees are pressed against the barrier right in front of us. The driver, sitting in a front compartment he has all to himself, looks more comfortable than we are. He turns a wheel slightly from side to side as we speed along behind other automobiles. Speed is the right word. We're going faster than a racing chariot. I pray the ride will be short. It's not only cramped in the taxi, it also stinks. One stench is stronger than the rest. For the love of Bastet, it's the dog shit under the high priest's shoe. To make it worse, I'm suffocating. I stick my head out of the coat to get a breath of air, but the high priest pushes it back. I unsheathe a claw to dig into his thigh, but as this might cause a scene, I quickly retract it. Elena must be suffocating too, for she opens the window on her side. I can breathe better, and I smell the dog shit less, but the sling still painfully tightens when the taxi stops abruptly as the lights lining the road change to red. Sometimes it doesn't stop, and Elena moans, "Oh my God!" Maybe a taxi ride has a religious significance. In any event, I pray whenever we stop. Pray that we've reached our destination. My prayer goes unanswered until the taxi stops even more abruptly than before. We've arrived! Finally! Elena announces. Just in time. I'm about to regurgitate breakfast and lunch. As Elena pays the driver, she airs her complaints. You call yourself a taxi driver? She says. Go back to driving school if you ever went to one. Learn to stop at a red light. And clean this taxi. It stinks in here. If you're waiting for a tip, you can wait till hell freezes over. The driver says something I can't make out. It isn't in Egyptian or English. Open the door and get out, Elena tells the high priest. That proves difficult. Fumbling for the door handle, he opens the window instead. Then, having finally found the handle, in his defense it doesn't look at all like a handle, and having opened the door, he bangs his head again, getting out. Elena follows him and slams the door, but not before the driver says something in English. Peace off! He has to be off to relieve himself? Or we should be off to relieve ourselves? The nuances of English escape me. This is the Met. Elena grabs the disoriented high priest by the arm and pulls him towards a magnificent building that, like an Egyptian temple, has an entrance adorned with colored flags. but the flags are hung like sheets left out to dry, and there's a long flight of wide steps leading up to the entrance. People walking hurriedly up or down the steps have to make their way around small groups of teenagers sitting on them. Even with my head under the high priest's coat, I hear the sound of traffic and voices. But there's also a stillness in the air, which seems a foreboding. I point my tube at the sky. It's gray. The sun is hidden. I feel the high priest shiver from the cold, and I point the tube back to the steps leading up to the temple. Some of the women are wearing fur coats with the collars up, their chins covered by the fur. Not leopard skin, but a fur I can't identify. In the future, animals are also slaughtered for their skins. As we climb the steps, we pass the teenagers who are sitting on the cold stone, but seem perfectly comfortable. I'm anything but. The bouncing as we go up the steps makes me nauseated again. My one consolation is it's not as bad as a taxi ride. When we reach the top, we join a line of people slowly disappearing through large doors made of metal and glass. I feel a blast of warm air when it's our turn to enter. Inside, Elena crouches in front of the high priest, her beautiful face looming large in my tube. But even a face as beautiful as Elena's is disturbing when seen this way. "Remember, Puss in Boat," she says, "stay hidden and don't talk." If I were allowed to talk, I'd tell her I was going to be as quiet as a temple mouse. We're in a great hall, and I soon realize the loud buzz I hear is the combined voices of numerous people. Some are quite loud, some almost whispers. English is only one of the many languages being spoken. This must be a very important temple if people from other lands visit it. Moving further into the great hall, we face an arch made by 4 columns. The design is new to me, supporting a balcony. Behind them is a stairway longer than the one leading up to the temple entrance. Hopefully, we don't have to climb it. I don't want another bout of nausea. We walk to the right side of the great hall and join a small line of people. In Egypt, visitors to a temple bring offerings of flowers, jewels, or food. Here they offer green papyri, money, Elena calls it, to a temple priest, who gives each of them a small disc in return and allows them, a few at a time, to pass into the inner temple. When it's our turn, Elena doesn't give the priest money, but instead shows him a white papyrus. She receives 2 small discs, attaches one to the lapel of her coat, and the other to the lapel of High Priest's coat. We walk straight ahead into the inner temple, where the first thing I see is a lion. Oh, it's just a statue of a recumbent lion. I've seen many of them in Egypt. Elena has told us that pieces of Egypt are scattered all over the world, and some are housed here. The lion is protecting a mastaba. The interior is different from the tombs of my time, but one similarity is the serdab chamber we've just entered. Here, the priests and family would leave food and libations to be consumed by the deceased in the afterlife. Through a small opening in the wall, we see the statue of the man whose tomb we're desecrating. "This was built way before your time," Elena says. "I know," says the high priest. "I recognize the ancient style." I'm not surprised his heart is beating faster, like mine. Looking at our past in the future is an unsettling experience. "Let's move on," Elena tells the high priest. Her words go unheeded. He's in one of his thoughtful moods. Elena pulls on his sleeve. When we leave the mastaba, we turn to our right and find ourselves in a chamber full of glass cabinets. "These portraits were painted way after your time, by Roman artists," Elena says. "The Romans were a foreign people who governed Egypt for a while." "I have read about these Romans in one of the books in your library," the high priest remarks. "They were a formidable people." I want to say I find the Egyptian style of painting superior. By walking only a few steps, from the mastaba to the portrait chamber, we've gone from Egypt's past to Egypt's future. A future we're seeing in the present, which for us, if we still lived in ancient Egypt, would not be the present, but the future. In this place Elena calls the Met, time has lost all meaning. We leave the portrait chamber and enter a long corridor lined with both large and small fragments of Egyptian paintings. A painting on the left wall portrays a king in a chariot. I hear again the cheering of the citizens of Menfi as Pharaoh, Motba, and I ride through the streets in the royal chariot. "Long live our beloved king!" the people chant. "Long live our good god's cat!" Their voices have reached me across the millennia, and the memory of that day, like a seed seeking fertile land blown about in the desert, will rest in my heart to grow into a lotus bud that can only open in the light of the sun. When we meet again, my beloved Pharaoh, your presence will make it bloom, whether we meet in life or in death. Another sound from the past? The Nile rushing by? No. This is in the present, and its source is very close. The high priest's stomach is growling. He skipped breakfast and didn't want lunch because, he said, he was too excited at the prospect of going out. Elena must hear the growling too. "We'll have to get you something to eat," she says. "But first, I want you to see something else." I'm so distracted by his stomach that if the high priest hadn't whispered to me, "Look, Rappahaman, it's a picture from the Book of the Dead," I would have missed it. A cat with a knife in his paws cutting off the head of the serpent Apep. I imagine I'm the cat and the serpent is the vizier. But while I'm cutting the vizier's head off and savoring my revenge, Elnena breaks the spell by pulling the high priest away. "I want to show you something really spectacular." Hurriedly, we walk to the end of the corridor. "Get ready," she says as she steers us to the left. The high priest gasps, and I do too. We enter an enormous hall, at the end of which is a small Egyptian temple made of granite. Pale pink where touched by the glow of the stars, blood red in the shadows. The contrast makes the temple seem both earthly and ethereal. It's almost as if there's no longer any border between life and death, between the natural and the supernatural. Guarding the temple are two statues of a king I recognize, Thutmosis III, a mighty king whose strength and courage were praised by all, even after he was long dead. How fitting that he should be here. Who's shaking me? Who's shaking the high priest? Elena, beautiful, earthly Elena, trying to bring us back to her. "Are you all right?" The high priest doesn't answer. He's still under the spell that's just been lifted from me. What I thought were stars are really electric lights set in the ceiling of the hall. The small temple, like us, is trapped here in the future. When I look to the right, I see that one wall of the hall is slanted and made of glass. Outside, it's evening. I see the trees in the park, the illuminated windows of the tall buildings, the street lamps, and the red and white lights of cars. The small temple is reflected in the glass, as if suspended in midair. So are Elena, the high priest, and the other visitors. Where am I? For the love of Bastet, I'm invisible. The high priest's stomach growls again, reminding me I'm hidden under his coat. "This is the temple dedicated to Isis," Elena's saying, "or as you would say, Eshet." But he isn't interested. He walks to the end of the water moat in front of the temple, then up the steps and enters. We're in the first chamber. I see two more, but there's a chain to prevent entry. Elena has followed us and begs the high priest not to go further because we'll be in trouble. He stays put, but begins to pray. In Egyptian, no less, oblivious to Elena telling him to be quiet. She can't know what he's saying, but I do. He's praying to Eshet, in whose temple we're standing. I'm afraid he'll create a scene. To distract myself from his droning and my anxiety, I study the walls of the temple. Pictured on them are Eshet and other gods doing what gods usually do, not much of anything, except receiving offerings. Nothing unusual about that. But on the left front wall, at eye level, there are names carved in capital letters. Nothing unusual about that either, but they're not Egyptian names. Efkasati, Politi, Droveti. There are also dates, but so recent. 1879, for example. Who were these people who so impudently inscribed their names on this sacred wall? I'll never know. But I do know that they have achieved immortality. For as long as this temple stands, their names will be read and their souls will live. We Egyptians believe that, if the name of a man is remembered, his soul lives. When I was a normal cat, I knew I had a soul, but didn't think about what would happen to it after I died. Now I do. I hope my soul will survive my death and be beside the Pharaoh's soul, the soul of the man I love so much. The small group is formed around us, attracted by the high priest's praying. Fortunately, he stops just as a guard arrives, probably come to find out why visitors are lingering in the temple. He looks around suspiciously, but the people who surrounded the high priest have lost interest in him and are now leaving. The high priest's stomach sends another cry of distress, and the guard gives him a dirty look. Wisely, Elena takes him by the arm and leads him outside the small temple. We pass the glass wall again, and the high priest stops to look outside. White sand is falling from the sky. The goddess Eshet is acknowledging the high priest's prayers by sending us a sign. It's snowing, Elena says. No exclamation of wonder, no praise for the high priest's powers. Nothing else but, it'll be hard to get a taxi back home. I hope the snow doesn't stick, I hear a visitor say. It seems Eshet has sent snow before. The high priest's stomach sends another appeal, the loudest yet, and some of the other visitors turn in our direction. We'll get you something to eat in the cafeteria, Elena assures him. I lick my whiskers in anticipation, only to have my tongue freeze in mid-lick. Of course, Rapa Haman can't eat with us, she says. He has to stay hidden. Perhaps I can put some bits of food in a napkin, and he can have them later when we leave the Met. To get to the place Elena calls the cafeteria, we return to the Great Hall, cross it, and enter a long corridor lined with white statues of naked men. She tells us these are Roman statues we're passing. Not only are they different from Egyptian ones, but there's something very peculiar about them. Some men are missing their genitals, and some with testicles are missing a penis. Were these men mutilated? The thought gives me a chill, but I'm soon comforted by the smell of cooking. My view is obstructed by a wide column extending almost to the ceiling. It's strange looking. Seems to be missing its middle section, and on top is what looks like a huge papyrus with each end scrolled. We walk around it, go under the huge arch at the end of the corridor, and enter a large chamber, the cafeteria. Taking a deep sniff, I'm soon inebriated by the aromas that permeate the air. In this enormous chamber, as big as the one containing Eshet's temple, there are lots of tables at which people are happily eating. That's what I like to see, not sexually mutilated Romans. Elena takes us across to the other side of the chamber, where we're surrounded by counters covered with an assortment of food, including things I don't recognize. She takes a tray from a large stack and hands it to the high priest, who carries it with outstretched arms, as if expecting a sacred offering to be placed upon it. Then we join a line of other people with trays. I'll just have a pastry, Elena says as the line starts to move. But the smoked turkey and the ham and cheese sandwiches are the best, Gato Haman. Tell me what you prefer. Both, he answers. Pig? But maybe he's thinking of saving one to give me when we leave. Actually, Elena, he says, I am quite hungry. I will have 2 of each. Double pig. He has no intention of sharing. Indeed, he plans to gorge himself. We pass a counter covered with containers of hot food, each holding a different meat or vegetable. The aroma is driving me crazy, and I'm relieved when we move along to the sandwich counter. All the sandwiches are wrapped in transparent paper that looks like water or liquid glass. Elena uses it in her kitchen to wrap leftover food. She selects 4 sandwiches, 2 from the compartment labeled smoked turkey, and 2 more from the compartment labeled ham and cheese on marble rye. She places the treasures on the high priest's tray, right under my nose, as if taunting me. At the cakes counter, she chooses a Danish pastry and also puts it on the tray. I love Danish pastries. She sometimes goes out early in the morning to get us fresh ones for breakfast. Elena, the high priest says, I would not mind having a Danish myself. Triple pig! How could he do this to me? He must realize I'm suffering. On the tray within my reach are now several delicacies. The temptation is too much. I stick my head out and take a large bite out of the one closest to me, the smoked turkey sandwich. Who could know this simple act would cause such chaos? A child in front of us, who has been turning around to make faces at the high priest, catches me in the act and points his little index finger at me. "Monster! Monster!" he screams repeatedly, as if he were being skinned alive. Amazing how such loud sounds can come from such a small creature. The woman in front of the child, who has been carrying a tray with 2 bowls of soup, also turns around. "A cat!" she yells. "It's a cat! I hate cats!" Her hands begin to tremble, making her tray shake so badly that much of the soup is spilled down the front of her long fur coat. "My fur coat!" she screams even louder. The high priest drops his tray and is soon running as fast as he did when he saved me from the vizier. Along with cat, monster, and fur coat, I hear another cry. "Stop!" Elena pleads. But it's useless. We leave the cafeteria and zip by the Roman statues, going so fast I can't tell if the people running towards us are guards. "Stop! Stop!" they yell. Must be guards. We receive the same order from other people as we pass them at high speed. Must be guards too. We're in the great hall heading for the exit. There are more guards there, but they don't realize their colleagues are chasing us until we're outside. They order us to come back, but the high priest doesn't even slow down. Eshet's snow has covered the area outside the temple, including the steps in front. It's apparently quite slippery, for the high priest slides down the last few steps and falls to the ground. Fortunately for me, he lands on his backside. His body served as a cushion, so the fall wasn't painful for me, but it seems to have been painful for him. He uses several colorful expletives before getting up and resuming our flight. We're moving away from the temple as fast as the high priest's legs can carry us. When he finally stops, he's breathless. I'm also breathless. The chunk of smoked turkey sandwich I bit off just before he began his sprint got stuck in my throat when he started running like a madman. When his own breathing returns to normal, he hears me choking, opens his coat, disentangles me from the harness, and puts me on the ground. He studies me for a brief moment, then with one hand squeezes my face so my mouth opens wide, shoves 2 fingers of his other hand down my throat, and pulls out the chunk of sandwich, still covered by the wrapping. Instead of removing the wrapping and giving me the food, he tosses the whole thing away. "Rapa Amen," he says before I can protest. "I think we are lost."